Welcome to the March 2026 episode or get together of the Job Board Leaders Monthly Roundtable. We meet on the second Thursday of each month at 11 a.m. US Eastern. The US goes on daylight savings time and daylight standard time, different than other areas of the world. We can get into a conversation about that another day and time. But generally, if you're in the UK, these are generally at 4 p.m. But at this time of the year, it's a little bit different. It's Americans that we're going to blame. Yep, exactly, Ben Groves. It's 3 o'clock for them now. It's our fault on this side of the pond, not Ben's fault or anybody else on his side of the pond. Today, I am joined by somebody that I've had the privilege of knowing for many years, and also have been able to work together pretty closely over the last couple of years. Peter Zolban is the founding principal of the AIM Group. I'll do like Peter, if it's okay, could do a little bit of a intro, and you can flesh out some of the details. But the AIM Group does a number of things in different verticals in our area in the job space. They publish a report called the Recruitment Intelligence Report. Peter has told me several times that I was the first subscriber to it. So that's my claim to fame in life. They also are the organizers of the annual RecBuzz conference. The next RecBuzz is in Budapest, Hungary, a little over a month from now. For information on the AIM Group, RecBuzz, et cetera, go to AIM Group, AIMGROUP.com. You'll see ticketing and information about the reports. Anybody wants to talk to me offline about the events, which I've been to multiple, the reports, which I'm still a subscriber years later, definitely reach out. I thought that Peter would be an awesome guest to join us. He and I will have a conversation for roughly the first maybe 20, 25 minutes or so, and then open it up so it's for everybody to join in, those who want to. And we're going to talk about the dominance of LinkedIn and Indeed. Well deserved on their end. All these guys seem to do is execute. Um, and we can nitpick and we can talk about things that they could have done better. And every organization has its flaws, errors, whatever. But the reality is, you don't get to be as big and as dominant as they are by accident. You do a lot of things really well. There might certainly be some good fortune involved in that. But you know, you make your own good fortune. Luck just happens to you. I don't think that Indeed or LinkedIn are just lucky. But at the end of the day, for the rest of the tens of thousands of job boards, recruitment marketplaces around the world, we're all left kind of not necessarily going after scraps, but we're all left with the reality that they are very dominant, and we need to figure out the best way of competing against them. Um, do we compete head on? Do we kind of go after, different markets than they do, et cetera? So Peter, before you and I get into the meat of that conversation, anything that I missed about kind of like who you are, what AIM Group does that you want to share to kind of set the context for the conversation?
No, you gave us a great plug. The only my only disappointment is that you and Core won't be in Budapest, but I think everybody else on this call probably will. RecBuzz is great. Registrations are going very well,
Awesome.
and yeah, surprisingly well. Um, Given what's happening with job boards and recruitment marketplaces these days. So thank you for the PR pitch. Always better that it come from you than from me, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, no, nothing more about me. I think we should get right into the.
Cool.
You aren't Indeed. You aren't in LinkedIn. What the heck do you do? But
Yeah.
before we do that, if anybody from Indeed or LinkedIn is
Hmm.
on the call, welcome. And the reality is that Steven's right. They've done many, 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 many smart things. Especially Recruit owns Indeed, has been brilliant about it from the day they bought it. They've certainly made their missteps like cost per apply, um, but they think long term. They're brilliant. Deco is a smart guy, a nice guy, very, very talented, running the whole company, as well as running Indeed directly, once he blew out the previous president, Chris Himes. And it's a great organization. And LinkedIn, they have their problems to be sure, most notably spam, AI, and lots and lots and lots of um, bogus profiles and bogus
Hmm.
listings and bogus. But it's still a brilliant company. So, how do you compete with them? And
So
it
let's start off before we get into the how you compete. Let's start off with, first of all, quick, you know, lightning round as you and I talk about on the Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast. We'll go back and
okay.
forth kind of quickly. Um, what do you see, Peter, as a few things that LinkedIn and Indeed do extremely well?
Scale, you know,
Yep.
and you're not going to beat them on scale. Um, they can provide small employers with certain tools that are very effective, and packaging that can be effective. Click, paper, whatever. Um, and they, especially LinkedIn, creates a sense of community with people posting um, their comments and content.
Mhm.
Now that's gotten kind of spammy lately and AI driven, which is, not great, but
So
I don't blame that on LinkedIn.
yeah, you're now getting into, and it's cool. We can also talk about sort of what they don't do well. So okay, LinkedIn, there's too much content there that's AI generated, that's bot generated, that's sort of low value, low quality. I think that that's kind of a common complaint. What are some other things that LinkedIn that you feel they don't do well, things that Indeed doesn't do well? Because then that'll get us into the how do we compete against them?
Well, clearly, LinkedIn does this better than Indeed, but neither one particularly creates a sense of community.
Mm.
And that I think should be, and will be the differentiator for just about everybody on this call. You know, simple as that.
Now, you and I were talking the other day about community, and without naming names, I threw out a couple of examples of sites in our industry that I felt do a really great job with that, where candidates are interacting with other candidates. It's almost like more of a Facebook kind of experience where like a nurse might help another nurse find a position, things like that. Your The way you were using community, if I remember correctly, Peter, was a little bit different. It wasn't just job seeker to job seeker. Maybe you can expand on how you think of community.
Are we still in
Yeah,
rapid fire?
yeah, we're gonna
Okay.
be the whole
In
time.
that case, okay. Well, in that case, I mean, there's a very ultimate simple test. If your job seekers think of your job board as my job board, you've won. If your employers think of
Hmm,
your job board, and I use the term job board when I also mean recruitment marketplaces, and we can get into that distinction later.
sure.
But if they think of your job board as the place I go to find my people, then you've won. If they think, well, I can use you, but I can also use LinkedIn, I can use ZipRecruiter, I can use Indeed, I can use any one of 22 job boards. Yeah, and part of that is, of course, you have to deal with the agencies if you're an employer, and if you're a job board. But ultimately, if you are my job board to the job seeker, and if you are my job board for finding my candidates to the employer, you'll win. That
Interesting.
doesn't mean you're going to beat Indeed. That doesn't mean you're going to beat LinkedIn, but that means you've built your own job board to be what your customers and what your customers, customers being employers and customers being job seekers, or even not job seekers, people who are in the community who are not seeking a job,
Uh-huh.
then you win.
That's interesting, Peter. It's a little bit different than what you and I were talking, but it just kind of like you just sort of like fleshed it out more than what you and I were talking about a couple of days ago. And I love this because one of the things that just came to my mind is, in the UK and lots of other places in the world, they have pubs, right? In the US, we tend to call them bars. And what the analogy that I'm drawing, and it's too early in the day here to go for a drink, but,
For you,
yeah,
you'll
the
go
analogy
anytime.
the analogy that I was thinking is, like, when I've spent time in the UK, a lot of people there refer to their local. That it's the pub down the street, it's the place they go. They feel, even if they're not an owner, they feel ownership. It's like, "That's where I like to go." And my wife and I have a place like that that's about half a mile from us, and if we wanna go for a beer, that's the place that we like to go, and I'm kinda hearing that from you in the sense of, the candidates, the employers, that sense of belonging, with the job board, that that's where they like to go. So, that's interesting. So, let's move on to the ways that job boards and recruitment marketplaces can compete, against the Indeeds and the LinkedIns of the world. And I think probably this is the meat of the conversation, both for you and me talking, and also later when others chime in. What are some ways, Peter, that job boards can effectively compete against Indeed, LinkedIn?
You've got to create a sense of community. Um, LinkedIn does that to a degree. I mean, I tend to see the same people, the same posters, uh, in my community over and over again. Indeed doesn't really do that at all. They provide great tools, they provide great services, but there's not a sense of community that I have about Indeed anyway. LinkedIn does some of that, but how do you and and all of this is very simplistic, right? Because we're saying become my job board and create a sense of community. Well, okay. I mean, that's consultant speak, but it doesn't really answer the question of how
Yeah,
you went.
exactly
Yeah.
how.
Yeah. I mean, um, getting people to engage with content, getting people to providing forums, providing opportunities to feel like for people to feel like I can go here and get more than just information, more than just listings. First of all, if you're only doing listings, you're probably dead already, right? If you're only if you're only a job board with listings as opposed to a marketplace with content and information and community and all that other stuff, um, you know, it that's not going to survive. How do you create community? You mentioned giving nurses a chance to help one another. We were talking about in Orlando, there where I am, there are two major healthcare um, providers. There are tons of others, but if one could create the job board and community for Advent Health, which is in Orlando, and also in Texas and in whatever, but in Orlando, nurses and phlebotomists and lab workers and all that stuff coming there. And by the way, who wants to advertise there? The other one, Orlando Health,
Mhm.
and the doctors who want to hire nurses. And the tertiary healthcare system in Orlando. And maybe if you're running a healthcare system in New Jersey and you need nurses, you come to the Advent Health job board community to target those people and say, come to New Jersey, make a lot more money. You'll be colder, you'll pay a lot more taxes, but your pay will go up 40%.
Yeah.
You know, those
So
kinds of things, content, community, people talking to people, not just talking at.
right. So the content, the focusing on a niche that you really know, the um how you interact with employers.
You know, there's yeah,
Oh,
you've
I'm
gone mute
sorry.
again.
Yeah, sorry about that. The so really focusing on the content. And I think one thing that I want to make sure that people understand is when you say, like, if all you have is listings, you're dead. I know from you and me talking for the podcast, for the Inside Job Boards podcast, you literally mean all you have is listings. Because there used to be a lot of job boards that were essentially just kind of cookie cutters. There'd be a homepage, there'd be job listings, and that was it. No articles, no videos, no discussion boards, right? Nothing. There are loads of job boards out there like College Recruiter that are primarily listings, but we have tens of thousands of articles, videos, social media, etc. And then there's like that next step up that I think we should be moving more towards, which is much more like that true community. And that's, it's one thing to say that you're going to do it. It's a whole other thing to actually do it. So let's talk about um, the kinds of content that work for job boards and recruitment marketplaces, right? I think we all know that lots of us have articles, whether we use blogging software or some other kind of technical way of getting those onto our site. But other than just posting a lot of like how to write a resume or CV, why you should network, kinds of articles, what other kinds of non-job posting content, Peter, have you seen that works well?
Well, before you do that, I just want to shout out Steve Levy's comment, which is
Oh,
make the community fun.
yeah,
Fun
there's a good
fun
comment thread going for those of us who are live on this, so definitely should chat there, share your LinkedIn URL, etcetera. But sorry for
yeah,
interrupting you, Peter, go for
but
it.
so creating engagement as opposed to content. Now, content, there are 2 kinds. One is current, fresh, new, today, this week, this month, um, what's happening now, and the other is evergreen. I am an old newspaper guy, so I think
Emphasis on old.
yes, thank you. But I probably top out everybody here with the possible exception. No, I won't say that. But I think text. However, text is very old. Video clips, short video clips,
Mm,
um, mock interviews. What are you going to be asked in an interview? What are you going to be asked? How can you respond? How do you respond? Steve Levy says day in the life via GoPro.
mm,
You know, all of those kinds of things help people relate to and Anne says, events,
mhm,
especially if you are geo-based,
mhm,
if you are specific location based, and that can be fairly broad. I'm not sure the UK, but even the UK, you can have meetings, job fairs, get-togethers in various places. That's content. Um, but location-based events, for people who are, geographically based or, meetups, have a meetup for nurses from Advent Health like this that isn't an Advent Health meetup, but gives people a chance to maybe speak semi-publicly. You wanna warn them in advance. Don't say too many negative things. You'll find your job becoming more difficult. But having meetups, having that's that's content, all that's creating community. I mean, what we're doing here, um, you have a community. I have a community, Core, Mark, some of the other people on the list.
Yeah.
We know each other. We talk among each other, ourselves. There are a few new people I don't recognize.
So the
Valentine,
so
welcome.
so the
Um,
so the events, Peter, I think what you're saying too is like in real life with, real humans is something that we all want, or almost all of us. And that's important. Some For some of us where our audience is very spread geographically. An in-person series of events is not going to allow us to reach all of our users or even most of our users. But then Google Meet and other avenues like that work well. Steve Levy, suggested like pop-up resume review meetings, et cetera. And I think as our industry, not just the job boards, but as HR tech as a whole, moves towards more and more and more automation, I think there's somewhat of a backlash or desire by people to actually connect in real life. Um, so that's important too. The salary reviews, newsletters, publishing stuff on like Substack and platforms like that. Um, those are important. The day in the life of type videos are really popular, especially with people who are earlier in their careers where they don't really know what a phlebotomist does, that type of thing. So um, those are really good. Let's move on. I want to make sure that we leave loads of time. So we also talked about the type of service. So one of the things that I found when working with very large organizations, whether they're a customer or more of like a vendor to us, is the bigger the organization you're working with, the less of a human touch that the customer tends to have, right? You get bumped to a chat bot. You call into customer service, that can be very uneven. Your account manager might change more often than I change my socks. Um, Talk about the advantages
should
that
change your
us
socks more often, by the way.
well, I should.
I'm glad you didn't
Um,
say underwear. We weren't going to go there.
the
Steve, I'm calling faith right now on that one.
please do. The so the talk about the in a minute, like the value to the customer, both the job seeker and the advertiser, the employer, that we as smaller niche sites, most of us can deliver through customer service.
Um, you can customize what your clients, your customers are buying much better than LinkedIn or Indeed. You've got so many ways to serve them. You can help them with their listings. And LinkedIn does this too, Indeed does this too, but it's very automated and it's you can help them with branding. You can help them with what package is best for me? What kinds of listings, what kind of audience can I reach? You can help them with engagement as opposed to my engagement with LinkedIn or we have an ad running right now on Indeed because LinkedIn didn't work for us. We got a bunch of garbage. Um,
Wait, I applied through LinkedIn. What are you implying?
um, yeah, you really don't want to be an executive assistant. Although Faith says, never mind.
Yeah.
Faith, Faith, for
For
those
those who
of you
don't
who,
know,
yeah,
Faith is my wife and also therefore the most patient person in the world.
and his boss because she is
Yes.
the
She's the
CEO
CEO, correct.
and he's the hanger on. But
Mhm.
there are so many ways you can get down and dirty as opposed to LinkedIn and Indeed, which have to be at the 20,000-foot level, and
Mhm.
maybe sometimes they drop to the 15,000-foot level. I could go into a long story about American Express, which used to be the best company for customer service in the world and has now gone in directly into the toilet. Um,
Don't
but
hold back.
I no,
Well,
no,
let's
I
let's
was
save
going to
let's
use a
let's
different
let's
word, Steve,
let's
and
save that for a
yeah,
different day because I'm just like mindful of the clock. So
yes. and
Okay.
we should get the input from others because
Yeah, yeah. There's just a
they
couple. There's a couple more sections that
okay.
I want to talk through in just like another couple of minutes. So I think we've definitely talked about the customization, the niche. Really focusing on that, knowing your customer, that both the advertiser, the employer, as well as the candidate. Um, let's talk about when some areas of the world they'll talk about commercials. It's not really a word that most Americans would use, but I'm talking about like the financial model. Um, you mentioned earlier about one of the things that Indeed, I'm sure if they could turn back the clock a couple of years, they'd want to do it better. But when they tried to roll out cost per application pricing, and that didn't go over well. But there are job boards, loads of them. And I think like Job Index is a good example where, in Denmark, very dominant, right?
Mhm.
Indeed and LinkedIn have just not broken into that market nearly to the same extent as they have in others. Some of that has to do with the pricing model. There are loads of other factors there too. But I think at a high level, most of us essentially sell two products, right? There's resume or CV or profile searching, and then there's postings. But within each of those products, there are lots of different ways to sell them. There are job slots, there's cost per click, there's cost per application, there's cost per quality application,
Uh,
there's traditional duration based. I mean, there are a lot of different ways. Are when AIM Group is looking at the different pricing options kinds of products, are there some that you feel would give a smaller job board an advantage over Indeed and LinkedIn? That Indeed and LinkedIn aren't doing it, or they're not doing it well?
No, I don't think there's one or another that gives a job board an advantage. But what I will say is out of the article you mentioned from our recruitment annual, we
Yeah.
had a quote saying, being flexible is a very important thing because companies don't always know what kind of profiles or how many they will need. If you work in partnership with the client and have a good relationship with them, you don't necessarily have to define how they will react with you. So that was a great quote. I'm embarrassed to say Martise. I don't remember who that was. I should have copied his first name as well, or her first name. But regardless, um, you know, you have much more ability as not Indeed, as not LinkedIn, to work closely with your customers, and you have much more ability as not Indeed and not LinkedIn to engage your uh, job seekers and engage with your job seekers, engage your job seekers with your job seekers. I see none of that on LinkedIn, none of that on Indeed. You can see some of that on LinkedIn, but I see none of that on Indeed because how are you going to engage with Indeed?
Are there products or pricing? And I think you said no to this, but I just want to make sure. So you don't think that there are like types of products or pricing models that Indeed or LinkedIn are not good at? That was a double negative. Apologize, but are there products or pricing that smaller boards should be embracing, should be emphasizing that would give them a competitive advantage, just product to product? Like if
Um,
you,
no, I don't think so,
uh,
and that's a good question to throw out to
yeah,
the crowd because we really should get to the crowd. But
yeah.
the other thing is, I firmly believe, and obviously Indeed does as well, and just about uh, I think many people believe that ultimately the model that works is pay per hire. Now
Oh,
there are so many challenges with that, difficulties with that, attribution and and how much do you pay me and on and on and on and on, that it'll be 5, 10, 12, 15 years, if ever, before that happens. But ultimately that's not only the holy grail, it's a holy grail for the employer, it's a holy grail for the recruitment marketplace or whatever comes after recruitment marketplaces, be it AI or otherwise. And it's the holy grail for the job seeker, because by golly, then I don't have to be one of 4,000 people in a black hole. The employer approaches me. I see the job. They approach me and they say, "You're one of our top three candidates. Talk to us."
Yeah. So the
How easy is that to get to? Not at all.
right. Right. It's but it doesn't mean it's not a worthy like direction to go after. I had to chuckle because Pete posted the oh, the irony of sharing our LinkedIn profiles in the chat, which is um yeah, but it also points, I mean, I think we all know it points to just how ubiquitous they are. So okay, last thing I want to wrap up with you, Peter. We'll open it up. Um Biggest mistakes that job boards make when they're thinking about competing with Indeed or LinkedIn. Do you have a couple?
Yeah, trying to be LinkedIn or Indeed. Trying to think, "Oh, they're good at what they do. I can do the same thing. They roll out this new feature, I can roll out this new feature. They roll out, they become AI dependent, I have to become AI dependent." Not that I don't think you should become AI integral, but all of those, if you just think you're gonna be another LinkedIn or Indeed, don't.
Yeah,
Be what you can be what you are. You can't be bigger, you can't be smarter, you're probably not richer unless you're printing, billions. Um, so be very strategic about what you do, where you do, and, become different, not different as a job board, but different to the individuals and to the employers who use you, and make yourself their tool rather than the generic. And I say that with the utmost respect, but the generic LinkedIn and Indeed. I
yeah,
mean, they are great at what they do, but they're also huge, and they're generic to the job seeker and to the audience because they are so broad and so international. I mean, they have to be fairly generic because they can't offend people in this market for this market and on and on. So,
cool.
don't be
So
LinkedIn, don't be Indeed, and you're gonna open it up.
yeah, I think that was great. I hope people appreciated that. Give it a thumbs up if you did. And if not, I'll give you Peter's personal cell phone number, and you can call him at 2 in the morning Orlando time. Um,
I don't
Anybody
mind.
who would like to join in, this is a great time. Whether you've had success, whether you've like tried something and it failed, you've got ideas that maybe other that you haven't seen tried. I see like Gabrielle posted about like that she feels that like Indeed's recommended jobs are pretty poor and they're one of the biggest chat GPT users. I think I heard that they were actually the biggest in terms of like their contract with OpenAI. Although now maybe the US military is, but anyway, and they can do better. So unmute, raise your hand, using the icons at the bottom. Um, and we'll just kind of go around and hear what people have to think.
Just to comment very briefly about Gabrielle's point, um, it's remarkable how bad LinkedIn and Indeed can be at matching, at ranking candidates, at sending. I mean, we get dozens, hundreds of candidates from Indeed, and man, there's a lot of awful in there, and it
Yeah.
shouldn't be.
Yeah, yeah. So, Matt Farah, who was my partner in crime in getting these roundtables kicked off almost 2 years ago now, had his hand up.
If you've ever listened to a business podcast and thought, this sounds good, but no one actually talks like this behind closed doors, you're not wrong. On the LeaderBook AI podcast, we talk about the conversations leaders actually have after the board meeting, after the AI rollout that doesn't quite land. I'm Felicia Shakiba, and I interview CEOs, investors, and operators about what really drives performance. If you want that level of honesty, subscribe to the LeaderBook AI podcast.
Matt, fire away.
So community, I kind of break it into two. I think so. There's the Stack Overflow community, which is, I guess, the holy grail,
Uh-huh.
where it's properly sticky, and people are coming back to your website to use the services, and the jobs are there. That's really hard to do, and it also depends on the sector that you're in. So, to give you an example, I was behind the launch of a cabin crew website 15 years ago, maybe more. Yeah, in the mid 2000s, and we had a forum on it. In fact, it was led by a forum. It was super popular, and that's because cabin crew, you call them flight attendants, they want to chat, and that worked really well. It wouldn't work so well in my current sector, nursing. They're quite happy on Facebook, and there's a few on Reddit, but to launch a forum now, I'd be very hesitant because I've dipped my toe in the water of trying to create sticky things in the nursing sector on our website, and it just hasn't taken off. So that's the holy grail. That's one of them, community. The other sense of community, which I suppose we have successfully done on the site, is, and Peter was sort of, I guess, referring to this. You end up on a site where you feel that you share an identity with that site. You feel at home. You feel comfortable because it's telling you things about the world that you work in. And so you think, well, I'm only looking for jobs, but if there's a place to look for jobs, this must be it because it's talking all about nursing, and we have articles by nurses on there. But it's still transactional. Do you know what I mean? People are just only still coming for the job board services. They've applied for a job and they won't come back, which is different to the Stack Overflow community.
Or, just the opposite. You come to the site for the community, and that's the Stack Overflow thing, right?
Mm.
You come to the site for the community, you come regularly, you come often, you come because you get something from it, whatever that might be, and the jobs are an adjacency. So that's the Stack Overflow thing. But yeah, it was uh, those are the two kinds of communities.
Has anybody hired a community manager? I see that in some cases, people who kind of get conversations going, who monitor conversations. Is it Ivalo?
Yeah, we do have a whole events team of 5 people and a community manager, and we do a lot of things. Just for the guys who doesn't know me, we are DBG. We are very local. We are only in Bulgaria, and we are very niche. We are the biggest tech job board in Bulgaria. And besides job board, we also do like 180 tech events in the country per year, the biggest tech conference, podcasts, content on the site, and so on. And it's a lot of community management on our site.
That's
I'm not looking at our rankings, but I'm guessing you guys are not only the biggest, but you also have the most traffic and the most engagement in Bulgaria.
Yeah, when it comes to tech people, yes. I mean, of course, we do have in the country a generalistic job board called jobs.bg. They are generalistic, but when it comes to tech, it's us. We basically are known as the biggest tech community in the country also. And so far, it has proven that this is a very good strategy for us because we don't see LinkedIn being such a threat so far for us. Indeed, is not really active in the country yet.
196 events says it all. That's community.
Yeah, keep in mind that these are most of them are small events, like 70 people on average, and they're like user group meetups, but they're even more local. Like we do have .NET, Java, AI user groups and so on. Some of them are even small, like with 40 people. And this is the backbone of our company, like all of these meetings and events.
So
But
when
that
you have
creates community.
yeah, and when you have an event with 40
Yeah.
people, those 40 people probably each talk to another 10 people about you, about the event. So you just had an event where you basically did a really great job of reaching out to 400 people or whatever. Steve Levy, unmute yourself and
Don't look a gift horse in the mouth, Stephen. Um, yeah, I guess you and I have known each other close to 28, 27 years,
yeah,
something absurd like that.
it feels like 50 for me, but
Much
yes.
longer than that. But anyway, the irony here is, but at Indeed, I led sourcing at Indeed for a while, and was friends with Paul going back before it was before even before eFinancial Careers, I think it was, and Ronnie as well. So so I've been following it now since its beginning, and having worked there, have seen it degrade, completely lose touch with the the two communities they serve,
Mm.
hiring people and the people who rely on them for job stuff here. But to answer your first question, I actually hired. I'm pretty sure I hired one of their community managers or the community manager when I was out there.
Okay.
And Stephen knows this. Within the TA community, I have served as the non-paid community manager for many recruiting communities for for years. And it's that in and of itself is probably the most important and most thankless task of any role that each of you might have within your business. It's what requires a special, that's not it. The important thing is it's kind of like an being a community manager is like an employee referral system. If you're not reminding people every day, do you know somebody? Do you know somebody? Who do you know? Go out there. Then eventually that gap grows to the point where it can't be closed anymore. And so whatever you do, trying to tap into heads of TA, whatever it might be, is um, as annoying as it can be. You have to be on them. You have to send something good as frequently as possible, because otherwise it's like, oh, there's another rabbit. Oh, there's another rabbit. We're completely there's a saying, sometimes you forget you're there to drain the swamp when you're up to your ass in alligators. That is the reality of hiring these days. And it's only getting worse as more leaders believe that the agentic and generative movement are going to obviate the need for certain role levels. And how whatever you can do to um, put that one little Band-Aid. I mean, don't focus on everything. Don't focus on a full body cast. Focus on the one little Band-Aid. Um, and then build upon that. A little Band-Aid, and then two Band-Aids, and five Band-Aids, and pretty soon you're the entire healthcare system for that hiring person. But Stephen, go.
Yeah, no. So I had a question. So I didn't know that your involvement at Indeed, way back when. So this is probably what, 2010, 2007, 2007, something like that.
No, I 2017, 28, 2019. It was not
Okay.
not that long ago.
Oh, okay. So less than a decade. Oh, so
Yeah.
flashback to then.
Yeah.
You're you're taking on the hiring of this community manager.
Yeah.
What's without revealing any confidential information? Okay, not asking for that, but
I don't care.
what's the business case? Because I think that there are people on this call that it's like hiring a community manager obviously is going to add an expense. I need to be able to cost justify that. I need
Mhm.
to show the ROI on that. What when you were at Indeed and looking to hire this, community manager or managers, maybe plural, what was the business case for that?
Revenue.
Okay, and
I mean,
how does
here's right around that time,
yeah,
folks were starting to, because I know you and I spoke about it. We're
yeah,
starting to the NTA were starting to educate themselves on programmatic,
yeah.
and they go, "Oh, that's what it is," and I'm paying what for that? One of the reasons I left Indeed was, I'm not going to say the head of sales, but you know who he is, Stephen. Um, I'm in on training, and he's essentially saying recruiters are stupid. They don't understand this stuff. Oversell them more, sell them more. And eventually that you'll look to see at, what is the impact on my quality of hire, if that's your metric, on time to fill, if that's your metric. Am I getting a reasonable bang for the buck from it? So the community manager was out there to go and be a human mouthpiece. Take in this case, deal with the concerns and questions and cares and lower spend that they started seeing there, and that ended up being a reality. Is the spend was reduced. By the way, no different than LinkedIn.
Okay.
You know,
So the community manager at Indeed was focused on the employers,
on the employers, yeah.
not generating
No,
community amongst the job seekers.
no, and
Okay.
that was the one thing that they still haven't figured that one out. Not realizing
Interesting.
that it's your best advocate is somebody saying, "I got my job at Indeed." Well, the interesting thing is, if I don't think I have any books anymore, but the first day they gave us shirts that said, "I help people get jobs."
Yes. I love that. I love that expression, that
And
slogan.
and that's fine, but then you forget about them because ultimately the people aren't the ones paying their salaries.
The candidates aren't.
The candidates aren't.
Yeah.
And so that sort of went by the wayside. Sometimes yes, that's why there's goodwill on a balance sheet because I they told two friends, and to your point, one good experience is going to produce 10 additional potentially good experiences down the line.
Yeah. Cool. I remember a customer of ours that went to an event that we organized years ago where we only allowed employees or full-time contractors who worked for the US federal government to attend. And
Mm,
and so it was a very, very niche audience. I think we had something like 75 people there, in DC, right on the mall, if within spitting distance of the Washington Monument. It was a great location, great audience. And one of the people there said that events like this turn a room full of customers into a room full of advocates. And I don't think we should lose sight of that sort of power that our customers have to help us get more customers. Um, Gabrielle, thank you for waiting. You've been like super patient. Please chime in.
No, I just wanted to reply to the previous question on community and experience. So for us, it has been a bit different. So we used to do more, and now we have reduced it a little bit. We used to do events at universities to get more people in. We used to do more events. Now we do maybe like 5, 6 events a year. We have an online community. When we organize events, we usually have like 30, 40 people coming, which is not a massive number, but we do come from a position of privilege because we are very well known within the UK. So what we were saying before, if you talk to people and you say, where do you get your job? If you work in the charity sector, most likely they found it through charity job. So we are very, very well known. We do still have a community manager. We do have a community that we use, but it's mostly for SEO purposes. So we have to attract traffic from people. One thing that worked really well for us is that we allow anonymous posting with moderation. So that's where the community manager is needed. So people can come and ask difficult questions with anonymity. And since we moderate that we know that there is no going to be any untoward content in there. But yeah, so we do it essentially at a minimal scale, but it still works well. It still pays off because I mean SEO easily pays off, and community generates questions, generates answers, and so on, which gives a reasonable amount of traffic. But yeah, we don't put too much effort, and the number of events we organize is very limited. And yeah, that's it.
Cool.
You
And
know,
go
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 ahead.
for it, Peter, please.
I want to come back to what Steve Levy said. the motto and mission, both of Indeed, we help people find jobs, um, is so simple, so
Mhm.
basic, and so meaningful. Now, whether they live up to that and so forth and so on can be argued. But I say this at every Rec Buzz, and I've said it on stage for probably 8 years now. We get so caught up in KPIs and AIs and
Mm.
indexes and revenue numbers and sales numbers and all of that stuff that you tend to forget when you have helped a job seeker find a meaningful job or even a lousy job, frankly, you've changed their life, their family's life, their kids' lives. You've changed the employer. One hopes for the better. If it's an employer like Amazon, well, maybe not. But you've changed the employer when it's a small or mid-sized employer by putting the right person in the right position or helping them put the
Mhm.
right person in the right position. And we tend to forget this is meaningful work to the people. And the flip side is the people who apply and go into the black hole, it's extraordinarily frustrating. But in all of the KPIs and all of the stuff that Stephen Rothberg and Ivalo and Matt and Gabriel and so forth and so on deal with every day, it's easy to forget you're helping change lives. And if you can remember that and keep that at the core of what you do and keep that at the core of what you're trying to achieve, you'll be a whole lot better than if you're just about your KPIs.
Yeah, excellent point. The work that we do in all of HR tech, recruiters, hiring managers, everybody in our ecosystem is incredibly honorable. Matt, please.
To Peter's point that he was just making there, I've recently this year started actually emailing every single candidate, good ones that apply through our site by email, not the ones that disappear off to a careers page. I email them personally to say if you don't hear back within a week from your application, let me know and I'll personally follow it up for you.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's a nice way of, it's taught me a lot for a start, looking at every application about the quality of our applications. But it's just brought home that I'm dealing with humans, basically. Peter's point just was about that. And maybe that's a sense of community as well, that they're actually dealing with a human website and that their application isn't just disappearing into some black hole somewhere. They reply, I get little, emojis and thanks very much. That was really nice. And also, I have had quite a few emails saying I've not heard anything back. Which, again, to Peter's earlier point of pay per hire, that's a no-no for me. If clients aren't going to reply and get in touch with what I know are good quality candidates because I've seen the CVs, there's no way I'm going to put my foot in the water of pay per hire.
Yeah, you can't really argue, Matt, about the employer choosing to hire someone else, right? Because
Exactly.
they may be a better candidate, the salary may be at a whack. Your candidate might only be looking to work at midnight to 8 a.m., and they might be looking to hire somebody from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m., whatever. Lots of
Mhm.
different reasons. Sometimes it's rational, sometimes it's irrational, but not getting back to the candidate, especially when they meet the qualifications. Um, 30 years ago, if employers were getting as many applications as they do today, that would have been a monumental challenge.
Mm.
But with all of the automation in place, there's just absolutely no excuse for employers not getting back to people, even just in the ATS, right? We're not moving you forward. Kick out an email. We received your application before that. Kick out an email. I think it's a power play when we don't get back to candidates. We've got time for one more person to like share like what's worked, what hasn't worked, what they want, what they think. Thanks, Steve. What they think we should do. Anybody want to chime in? All right. Peter Zolman, back to you.
Um,
Hungary, Budapest, is RecBuzz. I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like April 14th, 15th. Is that right?
don't embarrass me. I should know it off the top of my head, and I
Okay.
don't.
Do
I'm
you happen
sorry.
where I was going with it is, do you happen to know from the agenda, is there a topic like this?
There are a lot of topics. The agenda's online, recbuzz.com, or go through aimgroup.com. And that, there are a lot of topics. And one of the things about RecBuzz, as you know, and as Core knows, much more than the stage, although we get complaints all the time that there's too much great content on stage. I don't have enough time to meet with people, but we put in a lot of networking time because people love to talk to their peers.
Yeah.
And it's mostly C-level executives. It is very high level. It's always new faces, so it's not cliquish or you only see the same people over and over. And it's very meaningful way to share this kind of interaction face to face, in person, in a beautiful setting this year on the Danube, and a great city. I was there last year with my wife. It was wonderful. Go a few days early or stay a few days late if you can. And we'll have a lot of these kinds of discussions, both on stage and also in small groups, one-on-one, people meeting. It's not about who can make deals. We do have a deal center, but it's not about who's making deals with whom. It's about sharing information, networking, getting to spend time with people, and getting this kind of interaction up close, personal. It's a delightful conference every year.
Yeah.
I hope
Cool. And
people will be there.
yeah, and I've
Thank
been
you
to
for
multiple.
allowing the second plug.
Yeah, no sweat. For those who haven't been to some of these conferences, whether it's the Rec Buzz or there are a number of others, the Job Boards Connect,
Louise's,
DX,
we can mention
exactly.
them.
Right, absolutely. I also think that that's kind of like a good experience if you wanna see what you could do for, like, your employer clients or even job seekers. It's a good model, to look at. We're gonna wrap up here in just a second. I just wanted to mention that, I have booked essentially more Peters for future months, more guests where we'll talk for the first.
Is
I
that a
know.
scary thought?
Very scary. There should only be one, at the most, maybe not even. But, a month from now, again, these are the second Thursday of every month, 11 a.m. US Eastern. So April the 9th, the guest is gonna be Andrew Flowers, who's the chief economist, for Appcast. Um, we're gonna be talking about labor statistics published by, governments, how real those are, how flawed they are. Does that provide an opportunity for people in our industry to fill that gap? Whether it's just sort of at a very general level, like you see in a lot of countries like UK, US, Canada, et cetera, or in our particular niches? Can we become the source of truth, for the employers, the candidates, the people who are using our site? Um, and he's on the call right now, and he's about to blush, and I see the smile coming up, so he knows where I'm going. But Tim Deneen, who is sometimes called the godfather of programmatic, he was founded Recruitix, built that, and he is now at Aspen Technology Labs, which is a longtime vendor of College Recruiter, and he's going to be joining us as well. Also, a very data-driven conversation, basically like how you can use data, not necessarily labor statistics, but all different kinds of data, um, to drive more revenue, more profitability, and that should be Well, at least one of the two of us will be informative. And I don't think it's going to be the person who's talking right now. So, Tim, looking forward to that in 2 months. Please,
Stephen,
everybody. Yes, go
this
for it.
has been a this has been a very fast hour, and I
Thanks.
know you put in a ton of work every month to organize it, as well as our Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast. I shouldn't forget that, and so I want to thank you for organizing, putting it all together, and being the head community engagement specialist.
Very accidental and very much my pleasure. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks,
Cheers.
Steve.
Thanks.